Even though Riot's created a bunch of things over League's 15-year history, at no point did they ever make League into an actual pay-to-win game. You know, a game where you spend money to straight up have an advantage over other players. I mean, yeah, there are paid things in League that kinda give you advantages, but it's usually stuff like battle passes where you get more chests to unlock more skins, or XP boosts to level up your account faster. It's not like you're in the middle of a match and you pay RP to make your champion do double damage. And honestly, it's pretty rare for FPS or MOBA games to add stuff like that on purpose. And I say on purpose because some of the purely cosmetic things Riot has released have ended up causing problems for players anyways. So without further ado, let's talk about some pay-to-win League skins. Let's start with Project Ash, whose ult features a visual change that makes the hitbox bigger than the arrow itself. And everyone already knows that League's hitboxes are completely busted anyway. Depending on height differences, which side of the map you're on, whether you're in River or not, they get even worse. So when a skin makes that even more broken, dude, that's insane. Moving on to Vandal Gragas. He's got a bug that lets his W cancel other animations, like his ult or Q. It's so busted that the skin actually got disabled in tournaments, because it can literally hide the damage and casting of his abilities. I don't know why Riot does this instead of just fixing the skin though, since I can't believe they don't know how to. Conspiracy theory here, but maybe they leave the skin bugged so people will buy it and abuse it in solo queue. But since that would be unfair in pro play, they just disable it there. If that's really the tactic though, it's not working. I swear on my whole life, I don't think I've ever seen Vandal Gragas. Next, let's cover a different case. One that isn't about a skin, but the champ itself. When Thresh first came out, his E only showed a hitbox in front and behind him, but the ability still dealt damage and CC if you were standing to the side because of a collision bug. And instead of just fixing the collision, Riot just slapped on a visual effect to show the hitboxes to the side. Honestly, I prefer it that way. Looks cooler and it's more busted too. And since I'm already talking about hook supports, obviously we can't skip iBlitzcrank. Normally, in base Blitz and in pretty much every other skin, the grab comes out of his right hand. But in this one, it comes out of the middle of his chest, which doesn't sound like a big deal at first. The problem is Blitz's Q already has a hitbox way bigger than the actual ability. You can even notice this in the base skin. It's ridiculous. And the hitbox doesn't change just because the skin model changes. So you take a broken hitbox, put it on a skin where the animation comes out of a different spot and looks smaller, and boom, dodging it becomes almost impossible. Another skin that gives Blitz a big advantage is the legendary Space Groove Blitz and Crank. The Control 4 animation where he points and laughs looks way too similar to his Q animation. So players use it to bait enemies and then throw the real grab right after. Yeah, sure, sometimes it's kinda obvious. Like you'll notice Blitz does the motion but nothing happens. But when you're in a tense team fighting, thinking if I get grabbed I'm dead, you tend to panic flash instantly. And another skin with an animation that looks like a skill is High Noon Thresh. Man, these hooks champs are cursed. Basically, his recall animation looks almost the same as his Q, just like Blitz. But recall is harder to bait because the sound effect in the blue circle, except in ARAM, when there is no recall. No blue circle, no sound, and since ARAM is pure chaos, that bait usually works a lot of the time. Now, moving away from hook supports, recently Battle Academia Prestige Lux had a bug where enemies literally couldn't see her E, and they'd take damage thinking it had already exploded. I don't know if that's fixed yet, but that was super broken. And sticking with Lux skins, Cosmic Lux and Dark Cosmic Lux also had a problem. Not that the skill was invisible or anything, but her W was so bright it hides her Q and E projectiles. If you throw both at the same time, it's really hard for enemies to see. Obviously, once the E lands on the ground, it's still visible, but when it's traveling, yeah, it can get hidden. Another Lux skin with messy animations is Steel Legion Lux. Her Q and auto attack animations look way too similar, so it gets confusing. And back when she was released in 2013, her abilities were super hard to see, so it was even worse. There are also skins in general where abilities are hard to see because how they blend in with the map. A great example is Dark Water's Vladimir. Instead of blood, he manipulates water, and since it's a darker tone, it blends in perfectly with Summoner's Rift, especially the river. A lot of people complain it's super hard to notice when he ults, for example, since the effect is so quick and dark that it just vanishes into the map. Another skin with weird effects is Arclight Varus. When it first came out, the abilities were so translucent that his ult and Q were basically invisible. Everything was a yellowish color that blended into the map. It's a bit more visible nowadays, but back then it was nuts. Same thing happened with Infernal Shin's ult. It was just a faint red shield that completely disappeared in a chaotic teamfight. You couldn't even tell he was arriving. And I'm sure there are plenty more like this. I just don't know them or couldn't find them. But that's where you guys come in. If you've made it this far, consider dropping a comment telling me me about some of the other pay-to-win skins you've seen. While you're at it, maybe hit the subscribe button or leave a like. It actually helps a bunch and it's a great way to support the channel. If you're feeling generous, a membership is a much more direct way to help out, and it comes with some cool perks, like deciding on video topics and getting early access to videos. Now let's talk about another type of skin, the ones that actually give you a disadvantage.
Defeat.
One of the most classic examples is Sentinel Graves. Normally, the range of Graves' ult isn't shown to the enemies. Like most abilities in the game, you just have to know how far it goes. It's not some crazy advantage, but it exists. But in his legendary Sentinel skin, that goes out the window, because it straight up shows a super bright outline of the ability's max range. So unlike the base skin, where you had to guess if you needed to flash or dash away, with this one, enemies can just look and say, nah, I'm out of range, I'm fine. And the other legendary in that line, Sentinel Vayne, also has a disadvantage thanks to her updated animations. Since it's legendary, Riot had to make unique effects for all of her abilities. And with her E, instead of just shooting the bolt that knocks enemies back, she does a little hop that's really obvious. Project Vayne does the same thing, but I feel like in Sentinel, it's way more noticeable, which makes it so much easier for enemies to react and reposition, or block the ability altogether. I'm thinking of champs like Yasuo, Samira, Sivir, Nocturne, or even Neela. Another classic disadvantage that a lot of legendary skins have happens when a champion transforms during their ult, because the skin ends up showing how long the ult lasts. Truth Dragon Yasuo is a great example. That skin makes you realize an effect on his ult that almost nobody remembers, which is right after ulting, for about 15 seconds, he gets 50% armor penetration on his autos. In his base skin, his sword glows a faint blue, super subtle, but in this skin, he shines like a Super Saiyan. Most people won't even know why Yasuo looks like that, but anyone who does is just gonna back off and wait it out, because it's way too obvious. And then there are abilities where the skin effects basically tell your opponents exactly when to dodge or pop Zhonya's. Project Zed is a good example. His ult mark has a special visual effect on the final tick before it explodes, way more visible than in other skins where it's just a faint red glow. Another one was the original bot Nunu and Willem. When they released, their ult literally had a giant countdown over Willem's head, showing exactly how many seconds were left. Nowadays, Riot just changed it so it's a flashing red X. And if I remember right, I think the voice line countdown is gone too.
Self-destruct in 3, 2, 1.
However, there is another part of the kit that hasn't been fixed. When Willem casts E, there's a zone around him that roots enemies hit by the snowballs. But in this skin, there's a little circle that shows exactly when the root is about to trigger, making it way too easy to dodge. Another skin that makes things easier for the opponents is La Illusion Nidalee. Her spear has this reddish-orange glow that makes it way more noticeable than in base skin. It's basically the opposite of Darkwater's Vlad. Instead of blending in, it stands out way too much against the map. And now, kinda as a bonus, I want to talk about the arcade and boss skin lines. Honestly, they're what inspired this video. These skins are super creative, but because their whole 8-bit video game theme, they end up being really revealing too. Arcade Brand, for example, shows how many stacks of his passive you need to proc on an enemy, with 3 little flames popping up over their head, and his ult even has a giant counter showing how many bounces are left. This too much info thing was already a problem in the very first skins of the line, Arcade Sona and Arcade Hekram. Sona's empowered auto attacks make it super clear which ability is active, like her W showing off damage debuff and exactly how long it lasts. Same with her E's slow. I bet a lot of people don't even know that Sona's W passive reduced enemy damage until they got hit by Arcade Sona, because it literally writes it out huge on the screen. Hekram's W shows a little heart draining that literally counts down how long the ability will last, and his E shows on his feet exactly how much time is left on the speed buff. Arcade Corki has a bright white circle on the ground when he Qs, and fun fact, his Q actually gives vision where he lands, but in most skins it's super subtle. In this one, it's marked really clear. Boss Belveth straight up shows exactly who she's targeting with her E, with a giant arrow pointing at the enemy, and Boss Kiana's W bush effect is kinda hard to see the edge of, so a lot of players using that skin end up accidentally walking out of stealth, but that's basically it. See you in the next video.